So we found out that our community is very varied. Again, it can consist of very technical people, but also less technical people, especially those working in the information control space, where they are fighting against things such as internet censorship and internet shutdown. And they want to have relevant information on, for example, what are the techniques that governments are using to shut down the internet? And what can they do to protect their citizens against, for example, surveillance? So these are things that we want to talk about in the Internet Measurement Forum. And usually those people wouldn't have a place or a forum to share ideas, I would say perhaps in a secure and safe environment. And this is what we want to provide. On top of also providing insights about the internet of how things are evolving, we also want to give the opportunity to the different members of our community to also bring us their own way of thinking, their ideas of how to improve the internet. And this is what we want the PIMF to be, an interactive place where people would share ideas and also learn from the whole world of internet data, which is out there and not necessarily very technical, always technical.
You're listening to Ping, a podcast by APNIC discussing all things related to measuring the internet. I'm your host, George Michelson. This time, it's a slightly different format of Ping. I've just got back from the APRICOT meeting, which was held in Petaling Jaya in Malaysia. And at this session of APRICOT, ISOC hosted a Pulse Internet Measurement Forum, or PIMF meeting. The Internet Society want to help grow a community of people who are interested in internet measurement in the widest sense. About 10 researchers worldwide were able to come to this first PIMF meeting and present to an audience of about 50 people. For the next couple of sessions, when it's not Geoff from APNIC Labs, we're going to hear from some of these speakers who came to the PIMF sessions and presented. This time, we've got 5 of the attendees. Amreesh Phokeer from the Internet Society, who helped establish the meeting series, Christoph Visser from IIJ, Anand Raje from the India Internet Foundation, Andrei Rovachevsky from the Global Cyber Alliance, and lastly, Champika Wijayatunga from ICANN. First up is Amreesh. Amreesh has been on Ping before, talking about the Pulse system, which provides measurement aimed towards policymakers, regulators, and strategic planners. It's sort of a one-stop health metric model to aid people understanding their exposure of risk in the weaknesses in routing and in governance models. Amreesh organised the PIMF meeting.
Hello everyone, welcome to a slightly different Ping. This time, instead of having one guest and talking at length about a measurement activity, we've put together a package with a number of short recordings of people who attended the first Pulse Internet Measurement Forum, PIMF. So, to kick things off, I've got Amreesh with me here, who has helped start this new cycle of meeting. Amreesh, welcome back to Ping. I think the last time we met, we were in Vietnam, weren't we?
Hey, George. Yes, we were in Vietnam. And I remember we had this very nice meeting under the mango tree. And then in the background, we had the train passing.
That's
and then
right.
We did the recording.
Well, it's a little different this time. We're in Petaling Jaya near Kuala Lumpur at the APRICOT meeting. And you have established a new activity that's meeting at other venues called the Pulse Internet Measurement Forum, or PIMF. Can you explain to people about this?
Yes. So for those who don't know, at the Internet Society, we have the project called Pulse. So Pulse really is a product that produces internet health metrics. So really to give people an idea of how good or how bad their internet health is in their respective countries.
Now, we spoke about this in Vietnam, and it's in the archive of Ping recordings. But to refresh, most people's idea of internet measurement is that it's very focused on technology behavior, packet loss, delay, BGP problems like this or like that. But Pulse is actually quite a lot wider than that, isn't it? It's a measure across a lot of different areas.
It is. And we want to make it more holistic. And also, we want to put data in there that is also relevant to other people than the technical community. Because at the end of the day, the internet is for everyone. And this is what we preach at the Internet Society. And every member of the community, whether they are a regulator, a policymaker need to find some information relevant about the internet and hopefully be able to produce some actionable items to improve the internet over time in their country.
So there's a community of people who are interested in measurement in the broadest sense in the internet, and the forum is an initiative you guys have taken to sort of bring that together into some kind of collected state, isn't it?
Totally. So we found out that our community is very varied. Again, it can consist of very technical people, but also less technical people, especially those working in the information control space, where they are fighting against things such as internet censorship and internet shutdown. And they want to have relevant information on, for example, what are the techniques that governments are using to shut down the internet? And what can they do to protect their citizens against, for example, surveillance? So these are things that we want to talk about in the Internet Measurement Forum. And usually those people wouldn't have a place or a forum to share ideas, I would say perhaps in a secure and safe environment. And this is what we want to provide. On top of also providing insights about the internet of how things are evolving, we also want to give the opportunity to the different members of our community to also bring us their own way of thinking, their ideas of how to improve the internet. And this is what we want the PIMF to be, really an interactive place where people would share ideas and also learn from the whole world of internet data, which is out there and not necessarily very technical, always technical.
So we heard yesterday from Stephen Song, who's based in Halifax, Canada, and he's been working on mapping techniques. Quite a lot of people are aware of the dependency on international transoceanic fibre, but Stephen has been looking, for instance, at the domestic terrestrial fibre maps and the lack of consistency in information gathering over what fibre, what fixed line and broadband services are actually laid down as wires and assets in the ground, and at the structural issues around people coming to government or to civil society and saying, I guarantee you an independent path. But in reality, they might actually be using the same bearer. So that's kind of one side. And then we had other people who were presenting broad internet measurement platforms like Atlas. We had a talk from Bo Jeskins at APNIC about some techniques they're using to do alerting. It's a nice mix of people that are coming into the room, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a nice mix of people, and we want to keep it that way. We want to increase the interaction between the technical people and the non-technical people, because we want eventually the non-technical people to be able to use this information and to design policies that eventually would make the internet a better place.
Meetings are really quite expensive to come to. And in the Asia Pacific, we do have a lot of emerging internet economies where it's a marginal problem. It's quite a big issue for people to invest in coming to what is essentially a fairly small meeting set against all the other things. So is PIMF going to continue to co-locate with other activities for the foreseeable future?
Not necessarily. We are also planning to do one-off events, and that's usually based on the needs of the community. So, for example, recently we got an invitation from India. So we usually work with our chapters around the world. So there is a chapter in India, the Kolkata chapter, who are very much invested in internet measurements.
One of the people who was presenting here is from a community who've built the Indian indigenous platform for internet measurement. I think we might be talking to them later on. So you're kind of saying that if you are in the South Asian community, PIMF might be coming into your space, into a place where it's easier for you to come and participate. It's going to orbit around a bit.
It's going to orbit around a bit, and we want to make it a very localized event where we talk about the local issues and the local challenges and how eventually putting all the data together, we can help the community make better decisions.
So this is a workshop style meeting. You don't yet have a program committee. It's really come as you are and have information and stories to share. Is that right?
For now, yeah, as we just started. So we are, I guess, gathering momentum a little bit, so really understanding what people want and what people would like to hear. But eventually, yes, we want to make this a more structured workshop or forum. So we would as you mentioned, probably have a program committee around it, and also let people tell us what they really want to learn about.
Is the way to participate to actually be in the room on the day PIMF is meeting, or is there another way people can engage in this work?
Well, we have broadcast the live stream, and people could also connect over Zoom. But maybe in the future, we will make this a more structured way where people can also interact.
And you're thinking about having an archive of materials.
Oh, yeah.
There's going to be a web page and associated materials.
It's already on Pulse, the Pulse platform.
And this is a continuing initiative of the Internet Society. So Pulse is an activity of the Internet Society, and PIMF is going to be an activity about Pulse in the context of Pulse of the Internet Society, but in association with other groups as well.
Yeah. So Pulse, as you know, is a project of the Internet Society. And within the project of the Internet Society, we are running this activity, which is our outreach activity, disseminating the information that we are collecting, because usually we might be working on interesting projects about different aspects of the internet, but usually it gets buried into the loads of information that we have on the Pulse website. So the idea is actually to use the research that we are doing and then try to see if this is of any benefit to the community.
So is there a place people can go to learn more about this meeting cycle?
People can go on pulse.internetsociety.org. There's also a newsletter that people can subscribe to, and they will have information on a monthly basis about the different things happening.
Excellent. Thank you, Amreesh.
Thank you, George.
Next, we've got Christoph Visser from IIJ Research Labs in Tokyo. Chris has been looking at the way Valve, the game company, distributes game images around the world using content caches. The system provides information which helps inform IIJ about the density of users, paths to services, and the behaviours of the links between gamers and the game downloads without intruding extra measurement packets into the flow.
Chris, it's lovely to see you again.
Hi, it's good to see you as well.
So you recently presented at the ISOC PIMF meeting, the Pulse Internet Measurement Forum. Can you tell people a little bit about what you were talking about?
Yes, so I was mostly talking about how we can use multi-CDNs to increase internet resiliency for content providers, in particular coming from the perspective of a gaming view.
So this is not just CDNs, but multiple CDNs deliberately choosing independently discrete different sources of engagement for your activity.
So it is mostly that, but it is also the case of what we found is, in particular in our study, we looked at Valve's gaming platform Steam, and how do they go from a global average of 14 terabits per traffic to a peak of 144 terabits per traffic. So the way these multi-CDNs are typically used is to offload some of the traffic when their own servers get overloaded, so that your users never have any problems getting their content at all.
So we should say, before we go too much further, that you're working in IIJ Research Labs based in Tokyo, yes?
Yes, I'm part of the research team at IIJ Research Lab, where we do a lot of measurements, but also networking and systems research in general.
So these kinds of CDN systems typically exploit two mechanisms to control traffic distribution. There's a component of the DNS that is used, so behavior in, say, client subnet marking in the DNS flows is used to identify a probable region for the client, and they steer that way. And the other way is use of Anycast, BGP Anycast routing techniques. Were you looking at both of these, or were you only looking at one, or was there another mechanism you were looking at?
So the nice thing that they actually do is something completely different, where they do it based on the client and from where your client is making an API query to the server. And it's actually through this that we got a lot of the data that we've got. So using this information, it can tell you if there's a cache available within your region or within the ISP that you're actually hosting.
So this is the Valve app, and you have a registration event in the Valve app, plus the opportunity to do geolocation based on the IP address detected in the app. And the Valve system uses internal logic and metrics to decide how it's sharding this load. This is not using public mechanisms, it's inside Valve's own technology basis.
Yes, and that's actually part of why we looked into this, because there are so many users of STEAM all around the world, we were interested to see what type of data they could possibly collect and how we can use it within a measurement base. And having this point of view where they can query the application that has a wide overview of everything in the world, potentially where caches are available, and especially for areas where they might not normally serve, they can decide if they're using their own caches or if they're going to the DNS approach and using a Google, Akamai, etc., like a traditional commercial CDN.
So did you have an NDA with Valve to do this, or were you using public access measurement techniques?
We were using purely public data. So what is nice is they publicize all of their traffic that comes to their network publicly on their site. And through the API, we can get all of the other information, like what is the load on the caches within that region, as well as figuring out how they do some load balancing between these. So it is all public information while the APIs are still up.
Yeah. Oh, it's really fascinating. Do you think this is work that's going to go on for a while longer? Are you looking at a continuing body of work here?
Yeah, so one of the other things that they have that is extremely interesting is they publicize what is the top ISPs per country that downloads content from them. And this doesn't always match up what we think of a traditional the biggest ASs within a region, because these download statistics are coming purely from users downloading from them.
So it's a different view of the density of use, traffic flows, age-related differences perhaps in use of networking. This is an interesting cohort to look at.
Yes, and the other aspect is it also shows the average bandwidth rate that they're getting per ISP. So and this isn't just speculating. They've got, again, having all of these clients around the world, this is real-world data that we can make use of.
So where other people use mechanisms like SAMNOs to do traffic estimation and bandwidth estimation, you're not intruding packet flows into the link to measure bandwidth and delay. You are getting metrics from an application with a real reason to bring data down at volume.
That's exactly it. And it's nice to follow up to see that maybe a smaller ISP, which is more advertising for gamers, can have be ranked higher within this client because more people will download from it, especially because this is bytes driven. And you can also have that some ISPs have higher speeds, and we can get this from like the real world data. And what we're trying to look at, it's probably going to take some time, is just the trends year on year, which ISPs are moving where, and what we see through that. And they also have a lot of vantage points everywhere, like we can actually see within Antarctica, they've got a couple of people using it there.
Very intermittent access with the polar orbit satellites there, I'm told.
They do, yes, and we do definitely see the trends between when people are there and when they're not. And we can also see within areas, especially in Europe, where data centers are, with especially your NVIDIA game streaming, that NVIDIA is a lot of the times a big downloader from Valve.
So is there somewhere people can go on the web to see this work?
Yes. So we publish all of our work on the iajlab.net site, and you can find more details on not just my work, but a lot of what other people within our lab is doing as well.
That's really great, Chris. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Now we have Anand Raje from the India Internet Foundation. Anand talked at the PIMF meeting about AORI-IMN, the Advanced Internet Operations Research in India Internet Measurement Network. It leverages models from the IoT orchestration frameworks, and virtualized containers are provided, offering a range of measurement methods inside their design across India. Anand, welcome to Ping.
Thank you, George.
Can you tell everyone a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I'm Anand Raje from India Internet Foundation, and I'm also the chair of Internet Society Kolkata chapter. I am currently kind of in the Pulse platform here for Advanced Internet Operations Research in India, that is AIORI project.
And at the meeting, you presented a really nice talk about a measurement system that you have developed in India. Can you tell us a little bit about the architecture of this system?
Yeah, sure. So this is something that has come out from kind of a bottom-up initiative, from chapters initiative, when we have gone through lots of community engagements. And the architecture of it is quite on a very distributed computing environment. We have orchestrations. We have Raspberry Pis, which is running Docker environments. And then there is a PubSub model, which is a communication framework. The controllers we have. The idea of this orchestration and this kind of environment was we could have multiple measurement things that we can run on this platform.
So rather than Atlas, which is a single closed image that write, manage, and install on dedicated hardware, you've constructed a model using much more general purpose computing facilities, but still ultra small.
Yes.
And you're using the orchestration method. I believe it's similar to the IoT orchestration management framework. It's an open framework for orchestration, isn't it?
Yes, it's an open framework for orchestration. And we are using NATS cluster over there. So, and the controllers we have created. So the idea over there was to also evolve this measurement platform to be a standard development platform.
So this is a generic platform, small device, although you could use larger machines if you needed, and it allows you to use container models to run simultaneously isolated virtual systems that perform some measurement function. Because not all of the measurement platforms are the same, are they? They have different behaviors.
True.
So what kind of things are you currently running inside the container system?
We are running some active measurements right now, like ping, traceroute, DNS, and other stuffs are coming. One of the things that we have developed using this platform is using extension header, PDM, wherein we are also kind of developed some servers and clients having IPv6 extension headers.
So you are looking at the dispersion of traffic using extension headers. I know there's Nalini Elkins is very interested in this.
Yes.
You're in the same space?
We are in the same space. We are working with her.
Great. We have had her students talking on Ping before about research they've done that they brought to the IETF. So this is a very nice community. How many nodes do you have?
We have right now currently 100 nodes.
And these are distributed around India?
Across India. And one more thing over here is with nodes, we have Anycast instances also. That's a server.
So similar perhaps to the RIPE anchor model, you have a node that provides a service level, a server view, or is this your master controller you have distributed in Anycast?
So it's a master controller we have distributed at Anycast. There are purposes of that controller. The one is the master controller, which is the cluster platform.
Yep.
The second thing is those services that we wanted to have measured. We can also have those services in IXs and transit providers.
So these become the targets of your measurements, and you can perform inter-city measurements and edge-to-center measurements. You can do all of these things.
Yes, that's the goal.
So how long has this project been running?
I think the first phase completed in 2022. We are in the second phase of this project. So the next phase is kind of having 1,500 anchors and around 15 to 20 Anycast instances. We are working with university, academia. They are hosting and giving us space for that.
Yeah. And this is, as you said, a bottom-up initiative. This is a community-led initiative to understand the nature of internet behavior inside the Indian community. But in theory, this could be scaled to a larger platform. You could be operating throughout the Asia-Pacific or worldwide.
It may be the first thing that we have started to understand our country's perspective. We had a support from government to understand these things, and definitely the thing has been developed in a very open source model so that we could, and it could evolve as a standard development and testing platform as well. So the idea is to, if it could be replicated other places, then it's really good.
And that's great. Thank you.
Thank you for it.
Let's hear now from Andrei Robchevsky from Global Cyber Alliance. Andrei established Manners in the Internet Society, which was recently rehomed under GCA. Andrei has moved his secretariat and support role from ISOC to GCA as well. We caught up after his talk to explore what's been happening with Manners. Andrei, welcome to Ping.
Thank you, George.
Can you tell people just a little bit about yourself and what were the stories that you brought to this meeting?
Sure. My name is Andrei Robachevsky. I work for Global Cyber Alliance. Before, I worked at the Internet Society, and we'll talk about sort of my move to another company. And from the beginning, 10 years ago, together with a few network operators. We started an initiative which was called Mutually Agreed Norms for Routing Security, or shortly MANAS.
Yep,
And so this initiative is now 10 years old.
10 years.
But I wasn't presenting initiative as such. I was presenting a tool called the MANAS Observatory, which is measuring MANAS, to what
Right.
degree you adhere to the norms that were specified by MANAS.
So it's a mechanism that people who are involved in manners and have made a commitment to aligning with the principles, goals, and measures that manners applies to say, where am I in that spectrum of behavior?
Yes, exactly. So this is one of the goals, that they can see where they are and they can make necessary adjustments to be MANAS ready, as we call. Another aspect is that it is used when we consider applications for MANAS, because every applicant, they're not just signing up for MANAS, they need to pass the audit process, and this audit process is based on factual data provided by the MANAS Observatory. There's a third thing, and the third thing is that this data is being publicly displayed for the MANAS participants, so to improve and increase credibility of the effort.
It's not something that is only an internal diagnostic for you to assess your alignment to what manners stands for. If you are committed to manners and you become certified in manners, this outcome will be publicly visible.
Yes, that's correct. There will be more information and detailed report provided for the participants to aid their improvements, but the MANAS readiness scores are being public.
Right. And so this means that you're having to run some infrastructure to support this function. Can you tell us a little bit about how this works?
So the MANAS Observatory is based on measurements which are mostly passive. They're transparent. We're using third-party data, and they're evolving. So when MANAS evolves, the measurement infrastructure evolves as well. Passive measurements allow us, without requiring cooperation with the operators, to measure all autonomous systems on the internet, operating on the internet, which gives not only the view of the MANAS participants and how they're behaving, but on the whole routing hygiene in the internet.
So not only do you get an opportunity to understand your own systematic behaviors, you understand the landscape that you are operating in.
That's true. And we can compare on a regional country basis, on individual network basis. You can compare your own performance as far as MANAS is concerned with performance of your competitors, for instance.
Oh, that sounds quite nice. That's quite interesting. So I know that you provide API services because the Dash service that APNIC operates has incorporated a component of MANAS View inside our facility. This is something that might be available to other people as well?
Yes, provide that there are different levels of access.
Yeah.
So MANAS Observatory does expose public data on the level of country or region or globally. And for MANAS participants, they can access data on the network with network granularity.
Yeah. So you mentioned at the start that you're currently with GCA, but previously you were with ISOC. Can you explain a little bit about this transition?
Sure. So as I mentioned, the MANAS initiative itself was developed and grew up the Internet Society. But last year, there was an agreement between the Internet Society and GCA to transfer the secretariat function to Global Cyber Alliance, or GCA.
And you kind of came along because you are the secretariat in many ways.
Well, I was involved in MANAS from the beginning, and I helped to take this initiative off the ground. So I felt very attached to this. And when I was offered an opportunity to follow the initiative to Global Cyber Alliance, I followed that.
So Global Cyber Alliance, we have talked a little bit on Ping because Leslie Daigle has been running an initiative there, which is very similar to an APNIC activity using honey nets as a framework for measurement of bad traffic behaviors inside the global distributed network. Can you explain how MANAS fits into GCA's portfolio of activity?
Of course. So the project you referred to about the honey farms, it is called AID. First, it looked at IoT security, and now it looks at just unwanted traffic on the internet. And it fits in a bigger project, which we call Internet Integrity Program. Internet Integrity Program looks at three pillars of the internet infrastructure, foundational thing, which is numbers, and here we refer to unwanted traffic. It refers to names, and here we have another project called Domain Trust. aimed at reducing abuse in DNS space. And the third one is routes. And that's where Manus fits perfectly.
Right. So it's like the three major legs that are the nature of the fundamentals in the internet. And GCA is supplying information services relating to that structural behavior across all three legs.
That's right.
That's a really nice system, Andre. Thanks for coming and talking about it.
My pleasure, George. Thank you for inviting me.
Is there somewhere people can go to look more at the services you're running?
Of course, there is a website. If people are interested in Manus, it's manus.org.
MANRS.
Yes.
.org, not MANNERS, MANRS.
.org. Mutually agreed norms for routing security.
That's great. Thank you, Andre.
Thank you, George.
Finally, let's hear from Champika Wijayatunga from ICANN. Champika is well known in the Asia Pacific from his years at APNIC, providing training services and community outreach. He discusses a program in ICANN called Kindness. It's spelt differently to how it sounds. It's a joke on DNS. It's an initiative to promote best practices in DNS operations worldwide. Like Manners, it's promoting industry and operator norms to ensure a safe and reliable DNS ecology. Champika, it's lovely to see you again.
It is, George, and very nice to see you as well.
So you have just presented at the first ISOC Pulse meeting, PIMF, Pulse Internet Measurement Forum, yes?
Yes, it is correct.
Can you tell us a little bit about what you presented?
First of all, George, just to introduce myself, I'm Champika from ICANN. So I represent ICANN and I do technical engagement covering the APAC region. So I'm trying to actually reach out, especially the DNS operators, network operators here. And then that's why I'm here in the first place, trying to build those engagements with the APAC community.
Right. And Pulse is a room of people who are interested in measurement in the widest possible sense. It is often technology measurement, but it can also be social aspects of network structure or the political landscape filtering other problems. Which part of the measurement surface were you discussing?
Okay. Now, at ICANN, we have this initiative called Kindness. So kindness...
Oh, a little bit of kindness does no harm to anybody, does it?
Yeah, that's correct. What we're trying to do is basically to reach out to the DNS operators and then try to create some awareness about the DNS best current practices so that they can deploy those.
So if Manners is fundamentally about norms for routing and securing in that routing space, the Kindness initiative has a similar quality but in the DNS space?
Exactly, that's right. So Manners is for the routing security, whereas Kindness is for the DNS security.
Right. What kind of things are you looking at doing in the Kindness program? Do you have test beds that people can use or places they can test the correctness of their own DNS service?
Yes, it is a framework, and then we have a platform for that. And then if anyone could go to kindness.org, that's kindns.org, they can do a self-assessment. You can be anonymous, of course.
Right.
And so you can do the self-assessment and see what sort of practices you are already applying in your infrastructure, basically, and see how you can further improve and secure your DNS infrastructure.
So how many people have already completed this assessment process, roughly?
Roughly in the last 2 years, about 2,000.
Oh, wow, that's phenomenal.
Yes, it is.
So you really have quite a lot of information about the surface of behavior in the DNS industry.
Yes, that is right. So there are a few categories, of course. First of all, we have, if you are a DNS authoritative server operator, then you can, and also if you're managing TLDs or critical zones, you can do an assessment in that category. Or if you are a resolver operator, then you could also actually do your assessments in that category. So there are different subcategories as well. Even when you come to resolver operations, you could be operating private resolvers, or you could be operating public resolvers and so on. So there are different best practices we try to apply for those different categories.
Risks at large in the community like cache poisoning attacks or DNS amplification attacks, open resolver risks.
you include those kinds of behaviors in this assessment.
Yes.
So the outcome is not only that I improve quality of DNS inside my organization, I may minimize harms done into the wider community.
Yeah, that's right. So they can basically, whoever, doing this self-assessment, you could go through your current, what you're doing now, and then go with these best practices, what we outline in kindness, and see how you're doing at the moment. And then if you think that you have further room for improvement, you can do that. And then the next step would be actually to join kindness. Now, earlier, what I was saying, you could do the self-assessment, and the next step would be to join kindness so that you could be, you're becoming a sort of ambassador so that, others could follow you, and then they could also do the best practices in their environments.
Oh, that's really wonderful, Cham. Are you going to be coming back into the meeting cycle regularly and talking about this?
Yes, indeed. We have been trying to actually create some awareness about kindness, and then we look forward to actually doing some more engagements around that. And also, actually, we are trying to come up with some new sort of features so that we could also enhance the kindness framework as well.
Great. Well, everyone, I think we should be kind, rewind, and connect with Cham Phokeer and talk about these things. Cham, that's been great. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, George, and it's a pleasure talking to you.
That's it for this episode of Ping. Next time, we'll hear some more from people who were presenting at the PIMF sessions. We'll hear from Bo Gieskins, who comes from APNIC, Doug Mattery from Kentic, and Leah Hestina from RIPE. If you've got a story or research to share here on Ping, why not get in contact by email to ping@apnic.net or via the APNIC social media channels. Also, remember the measurement at apnic.net mailing list on Orbit is there to discuss and share relevant collaborative opportunities, grants and funding opportunities, jobs and graduate placings, or to seek feedback from the community on your own measurement projects. Be sure to check out the APNIC website for all your resource and community needs. Until next time,